You're welcome to my channel. My name is Ndifon Ntui. On this channel, I make sewing tutorials. I post new videos on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. So if you're into stuff like this, make sure to check back on those days in order to watch new content. Alright? If you are a beginner or if you're a person that's trying to brush up on your skills, I offer online courses. I'll be showing a demo on how to make a jumpsuit so you can watch and decide if it will be convenient for you to learn online. If you're interested, send me a message on Telegram. Alright? The number is on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a like. Do not forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. Alright, you're welcome to this video. This video is a part 2 of the previous video that I made where we're making the dress that you've seen on the thumbnail. So in this video, we're going to be working on the bottom part of the dress. The bottom part comprises of 2 parts. The part that is a like skirt that's supposed to be joined to the top part to make it a dress. There's a mermaid, the one that's supposed to make it look like an evening dress, and then there's a short on the inside. All right, so we'll tackle both those 2 parts of the bottom half in this video. I've made a video on how to draft female trousers before. This is basically the same thing. The only difference is that this is going to be shorter because it is a short. So a link to the part 1 of this video is going to be in the description, and a link to how to draft female trousers is going to be in this description, will be in the description as well. So make sure to check it out. Yeah, so I would cut the trouser, the short here on camera. Yeah, but I'm not going to really take my time to explain it so as not to make this video as long as the last one. Yeah, so please, when you're drafting this short, make sure that the waist is the same thing with the waist you placed on the bodice. So if your waist at the bodice was 30, the waist for your trouser should be 30. All right, so what I would place as distance from the waist to where you should have your thigh line, you would have to place 10 inches. All right, so that's the only thing I might add here. So 10 inches. So that's the waist, that's the hip thigh, that's the length of the shorts, that's the hip measurement I've placed. I'm going to go ahead to place the same thing at the top, roll a straight line, place my thigh, draw my curve for my thigh, bring out my waist, that's the hem, cut it out. Yeah, and then I'm going to use this pattern to cut the back, which is similar, it's just that it's 2 inches bigger than the front. So that's all you have to do. Now that this is done, these patterns are going to be used to cut the black fabric that will be on the inside for the shorts. Let's go ahead to draft the skirt part of this. So regular skirt part, so half inch at the waist first. Half inch at the waist first. We're going to draft it like a regular skirt. So if you've seen me draft the skirts before, you already know how this is going to go. So let's just breeze through it. For those of you that are new on the channel, welcome. So I'm placing where my body stopped at. My body stopped at 17.5. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down 8 steps, 6, 7, 8. So right there, 8 inches. That is where I'm going to place my hip line. The shoulder to the knee is 40 inches. I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches. Sorry. So I'm going to come up by 1.5 so that there is no restriction around the client's knee. All right, to allow for ease of movement. So at the bottom, the paper is not long enough. I'm going to need to add extra, but before then we're going to simply roll lines across the bottom, then across all the parts of the skirt. Sorry. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to place all our measurements across. So this is the waist measurements that we're placing here. The next thing I'm going to place is my hip measurement. 46 divided by 4, 11.5. I'm going to place that here. And then I'm going to subtract 2 inches from 11.5 and place at the knee. So 11.5 minus 2, 9.5 right there. And then we're going to connect all our lines together. So that's what I'm doing now. All right. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up down to the bottom. The paper is not long enough, like I said before, so I'm going to have to indicate that I have to increase the paper by 5 inches by the time I'm transferring to my fabric. All right. And then the next thing is to place my hem. We need to flare out the hem as much as we can. At the bottom, we want to place whatever your hip is plus at least 16 inches for it to be decent, but I would say as much as you can. So that's what I've placed there, my hip plus 16 inches. And then I'm going to cut out. When I'm cutting, I'm going to cut ½ inch at the bottom. By the time I get to this point here, I'll increase it to 1 inch. So the knee, hip, waist would have 1 inch of allowance. So ½ inch and 1 inch everywhere else at the top. After this, the next thing is for us to transfer all our patterns to the fabrics. All right, so let's start with the shorts. All right, so you can see here, I'm cutting the same thing, basically the same thing with what we had at the on the paper. Just cut it out. All right, I'll go ahead to cut the skirt part as well, but the skirt part is too big for the table. But it's basically the pattern we drafted. I'll simply transfer that to fabric, but I'll come to the table to show you what I did. This is the pattern that I cut for the front. You can see it's basically the same thing. I slightly increased the amount of allowance I had at the bottom part so that it is fuller, and I also increased the length by 5 inches. When I'm cutting the back, I'm going to use the same pattern as the front, but there'll be 1.5 inch allowance in front where you can see my hand indicating. When I get to the knee, I'm going to also flare out like I did on the side, so that there is flare in the middle of the zipper allowance. Okay, so that the zipper allowance is not flat and then you look like you are wearing a triangle. All right, so that back part there would also need to have a flare. All right, so but you see the table, the front pattern has already covered the entire table, so the back I can't properly cut that here. This is what I was trying to explain to you. On the back pattern, you can see in front of here we have 1.5 inch of allowance, and then it opens up in front of here just like how it opened up on the other side. So make sure you do that when you are cutting your pattern. Now let's move on to the sewing machine where we would join everything together. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dart the back of the skirt. I'm not darting the front, but at the center of the back pattern, I'm going to dart down 4 inches on both sides. And then I will go ahead to join the front to the back on the side. But first of all, let's dart the back. All right, so separately. So I'm holding the first 4 inches here. I'm going to go ahead to dart the second side too, another 4 inches. All right. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join the front to the back on the side. So remember, on the side, you kept only 1 inch of allowance on both sides. So make sure that when you're joining the front to the back, you consume only 1 inch, because that is what you kept in the first place. I'm going to join 1 inch on the side everywhere, but after the knee, I'm going to reduce it to ½ inch so as to fully maximize the amount of fullness the bottom would have. All right, so that's the first part. I'm going to do the same thing to the second side. Still 1 inch on this side. Remember to carefully join hip to hip. Don't go and join zip space to hip so that you don't mess up your work. All right. Now that we have done all of this, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to the zipper allowance. So the middle of the back, I'm going to keep a space of 8 inches before I start holding the skirt all the way down. Keep a space of 8 inches and then hold all the way down. That 8 inches is where we're going to install our zipper. You can see me carefully measuring out 8 inches before I start stitching. So make sure to keep the 8 inches, and then for how deep in you should stitch, it's 1.5 like I said before. So you're going to come down by 1 inch, by 8 inch, go in by 1.5. So now to allow us to turn our zip neatly on this dress, because the zip is will sit on this lace and on the shorts, so the zip would have to be connected on both sides at a certain point, and then they would have to separate later on. So you're going to come to the top of that 8 inch. You see this point here? You're going to come right above there. Please don't cut across it. Just stop on top of where you started your 8 inch, where that 8 inches stops, where you started stitching your zipper allowance from, like I instructed. Make sure you make a notch there. After that is done, we're going to move over to the shorts. You can see here we have the front and the back. we're going to go ahead to both sides of the back. The same thing we did on the fabric, we're going to do here as well. All right. All right. We're going to also hold a 4-inch dart here. After you're done with that, we are going to join both sides of the front together at the crotch. So we'll start from the top, but we'll stop 2 inches before you get to the end of the curve, like I always do. So we're going to change our thread, stitch, stop where I told you to stop, cut that up. We're going to bring the back to the front and we're going to join them on the sides, consuming 1/2 inch. All right, so that's what I'm doing here. Consuming 1/2 inch on the left. I'm going to bring the other side as well. We're going to still consume 1/2 inch here too. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch the thighs together. So you're going to get your thigh, you see here, you're going to pick up the left leg or the right leg. Just make sure that the front and the back are on the same leg. We're going to join them in on the inner part. So this is the stitch that will sit on the inner part of the thigh. I'm joining 1/2 inch here. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side of the thigh as well. All right, and then when you are done with that, we're going to have to complete the stitch. So you see this, that's where we stopped at that 2 inches. We need to complete it. But whatever you do, stop 8 inches before you get to the top. Remember, when we're stitching the zipper allowance for the back, we came down by 8 inches. We're going to have to do the same thing here, so that it is the same thing. It has to be the same, so that the lace sits inside it properly. So I'm going to measure 8 inches, and then I'm going to come in by 1.5, just like what we did on the fabric. All right, so look at what I'm doing. I'm going to place this down, measure out my 8 inches, come in by 1.5, and complete the stitch to the front stitch where you stopped at 2 inches before the curve. All right, after you have done this, we're going to have to plant the top in between the lace and the shorts. All right, so yeah, this is how you're going to go about it. Please look closely. This is black on black, so I'm hoping that after it processes, it will be a bit clear for you to see. The black doesn't just, because the black is stealing all my light. What we're going to do is you're going to get your bodice. You see this here, this is the top part that we stitched together. We're going to take the side. You see this side here where we iron flat. We're going to place that side on the side of the skirt, because we want our lines to flow from the top part of the bodice into the skirt part. All right, make sure you place them together like you've seen me do. You are going to get your shorts and you are going to place it with the clean side facing up. So for me, it's the shiny side is facing up. Doing this is going to keep all of our stitches, our rough stitch, showing on the inside, but then you want to have the clean side facing the lace. That's what we are doing here. All right, that's sacrifice we have to make. So we're going to start to stitch from here. All right, 1/2 inch. You can see me stitching from here. Okay, when I climb this, I'm going to stitch it. Look, I'm trying to arrange it well. I'm going to place the side on the side, put the head in, put my short on top of it, and stitch it in place. By the time I get to that side and I know that I have aligned it properly, I'm going to back stitch, lock it there, and then I'm going to come out, and then we're going to follow from here. We're going to follow from here. Make sure that you easily follow this line, arrange everything all the way to the other side. By the time you get to this side, we're going to stitch from here all the way down, the same way we did before. The reason why we're doing this is so that we can control the side seam. You want the side seam to land on the same point. You want it to do that. It's going to make your dress look very, very well made, which is what I'm doing now. So since I've nailed the side, we're going to simply just stitch. This stitch will take us all the way through, across to the where we started from before. And then you want to take your time, turn everything inside out, clean it, open up the shorts that is inside, arrange everything. With that, we've come very close to the end. You can see this is the front where we have the polka dot net. You can see that it's now attached to the bottom part. You can see that here it's not see-through because our short is in there. But if I come down a bit, you can see that this dress is going to really, really show your legs. All right, flip over to the other side. This is a whole lot of black, but you see the part of the lace that we notched is entering into the zip space. Okay, if you did not do that, there's going to be some confusion going on around there. All right, But here, this is the easiest way to go about this. There's another way to go about this, but it's to split your head in half, and it's be difficult to alter. So we're going to go ahead to fix our zip, but that is why we made that notch, so that the lace, that part of it, sits with the shorts. All right. So for all the rough sides that we have inside, that's all your joining. You're going to have to do another locker to finish that. That's the sacrifice we had to make in order to make the front of the dress look nice. So the part that everybody would see is going to look all clean and shiny. You don't want your darts to be showing when the person sits down. You don't want the side joining to be showing on the short when the person sits down. I'll go ahead to install my zipper, but after that I'm pretty much done. It's an easy zipper to fix, as you can see. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you in the next video on Wednesday. You have a lovely day. Au revoir.